I read 8 books in the month of November, so let's chat about them. I actually started this month off with an audiobook. I audiobooked 1,000 Broken Pieces, which is the second book in like a little duology. The first book is 1,000 Boy Kisses, which went crazy viral on TikTok like forever ago. And then the author came out with a second book, which actually follows the sister, which I actually really liked this. I enjoyed watching her try to heal from the things that happened in the first book, and then also there's like the romance that I really enjoyed, which I will say with part of the audiobook they had 2 voice actors, and the man that was voice acting like our male love interest was so intense at some points. Like he had like a Jersey accent, I think, or like no, it was a New England accent, and it would just be so intense at times, especially when he was like getting very emotional and like kind of angry, and it just like was like too much almost. Like I needed him to tone down a little bit, but I really enjoyed their relationship, and just like I said, seeing the main character grow and change. And then also I feel like they talk about a lot of heavy topics in this book, so check the trigger warnings. But also I like that the author kind of also talked about like male mental health and the importance of that, so I did enjoy that aspect. But I will say I don't think I recommend 1,000 Boy Kisses, so I don't know if I can also recommend 1,000 Broken Pieces, which I think that you can read 1,000 Broken Pieces without reading 1,000 Boy Kisses. But I mean, at this point I feel like most people have read 1,000 Boy Kisses. I kind of almost forgot that I read this book, to be honest. Next I read The Great Alone by Kristin. I did really enjoy this book. In this book we follow a family that moves to Alaska, and I will say I've thought about this book a couple times since I finished it, which is surprising. I rated this a 4-star. This was also in a reading vlog that went up in November, and I talk about in that reading vlog that there are some heavy themes that they discuss in this book, so definitely check the trigger warnings again. You should probably just check the trigger warnings for any of these books, to be honest. Specifically with this one, there were some topics discussed that even I was a little uncomfortable about, a little just didn't love, you know, which sucks because also I don't know, I don't like reading about that kind of thing in books, because for me like books are just a way to escape, and that just those kind of themes just bring me right back. So like I said, you're following a family that moves to Alaska because they're kind of nomads almost. Like they've just moved a lot in their life, and the dad is dealing with a lot of grief. He was, I think, in the Vietnam War. I'm not 100% sure. You can correct me if I'm wrong. He was in one of the wars, so he has a lot of PTSD going around that, and that's also like part of the reason why they moved to Alaska, because he kind of just wants to be off the grid. And just learning about their life off the grid and in Alaska is crazy, and like all of the changes and what they have to learn to deal with, because obviously Alaska is freezing and they're like off the grid, like they don't have electricity, they don't have running water. All of that was so fascinating to me, and I think that is part of the reason why I think about this book pretty often and that it's stuck with me. Learning about life in Alaska is wild to me because I've like never thought about how off the grid it can be out there, and I think that this book only lost points for me because it had themes that I just don't enjoy reading about, and that's just personal preference. I feel like I'm flying through these books right now, but I also read Fifth Avenue Glamour Girl, which for the longest time I thought I was gonna rate this 4-star until actually yesterday I moved up my rating to a 5. I just think about this book so often. I don't know what it was, but it just hit so hard. This is historical fiction, and it's set, I want to say there's a war going on towards the end, but I can't remember. I think it's World War II that happens towards the end, but it's set in New York City. Listen, I seem to be unable to remember any names of any characters that I read in the books this month. I don't know why, but I can't remember any of them. But the main character in this book, something happens with her family. Her dad is involved in this big scandal, so she has to kind of figure out life on her own. She dyes her hair. She tries to basically become a new person so that the scandal doesn't follow her into like her new life. But she's very used to her family providing for her. She comes from like a rich background where her family kind of pretty much bought her everything that she wanted until the scandal happened. So she's really basically building from scratch here. So you follow her trying to navigate New York City and finding a job, but she is also best friends with Estee Lauder, which is like part of the historical fiction element to this book. I loved that so much. I have just a special place for Estee Lauder in my heart to begin with. I can't even explain it. It's too much to explain, but that alone I was like, oh, this is so interesting, and that's why I picked the book up to begin with. So fun, so amazing, and I love just like the New York City scene in books. And like I said, this is historical fiction, which I am getting back into historical fiction recently. I don't know why, it's just hitting. Recently every historical fiction book that I've been picking up, I've been eating it up. I've been loving them. And then this is when I pivoted a little bit because I wanted to start reading more holiday-like books. So I started the Winter series by Elin Hilderbrand. I actually read the first 2 books in November. So I read Winter Street and Winter Stroll. Let's first talk about Winter Street. So I rated that one a 4 star. It's the beginning of the series, and in this series you are following a family. They're all very closely knit. They all actually own an inn on Nantucket and they live in this inn together. Well, I guess it's more of like a big hotel. At least that's the way that they describe it, and the way I picture it in my mind is that it's a very big hotel and that there's like owners' quarters in the hotel. That's just how I picture it. I don't know if that's true or not, but the first book takes place within like a 2-day period. Like it's like Christmas Eve and Christmas, and that's the entire first book, and I ate that up. Like that was exactly what I was looking for. Well, actually it wasn't exactly what I was looking for. When I picked it up, I didn't know that it took place during Christmas. I thought it was just winter. It was like, it's the Winter series. I was just like, oh, it's like winter, like it's cold on Nantucket. No, it took place during Christmas. It was the perfect segue into the Christmas season, like from fall to Christmas. And I don't know what it was specifically about this book that I just ate up. I have no idea, but I couldn't stop reading this. I read it in like a couple days, and like I said, I don't know why, because like nothing super crazy happens. Like I said, you're following this family and each person has their own point of view, so you're really like taking a deep dive into their family and into each person and all of their struggles, what they're going through. They have a son that just joined the Marines who's in Afghanistan. You don't get his point of view, but you do get everyone else's. Now let's move on to Winter Stroll, which is the second book in the series. I actually enjoyed this one a little bit less because it took place exactly a year after the first book took place, and I was like, what happened in this year? Like I feel like I missed so much information. That was my biggest pet peeve with this book. I just couldn't get into it as much as I could the first one, and maybe my expectations were a little bit higher because the first one was so pleasantly surprising. I don't know, it just didn't hit the same. I think I'm gonna rate it a 3 star, and I don't want to talk about it too much because I don't want to give anything away because like I said, it's a series. I just didn't love it, but I also think that I am going to finish this series by the end of December because they are very Christmassy books. I thought that they would be mostly just winter, but they do have Christmas elements in each book, at least so far. So I want to finish them before Christmas. Well, before January. I could be fine finishing them after Christmas. And then I read When the Wind Blows by James Patterson, which might be my least favorite book that I read in November, which I hate saying that because there was nothing wrong with this book at all. It just definitely was not a book for me. I think it might be a science fiction book, and I don't read a lot of science fiction because I'm normally just not drawn to them, but for some reason I was like, oh, this book sounds very interesting. It's about a veterinarian who finds a young girl in the woods one day and her entire life changes. There's like a big mystery around the girl, how she got there. She's also very different than everyone else. I mean, you kind of like dive into why. Very science fiction-y, a lot of like doctor-y type of, not lingo, but like they're all like doctors in the book. I feel like that's all I can tell you because I don't want to give anything away, and I don't remember exactly what's on the back of the book. I just mostly think that this book was not for me, and I think the only reason that I even finished this book was because I took the book with me on vacation, and that was the only physical book I had with me, and I was reading it on the plane, and I read like most of it on the plane. And like I'm on an airplane, like I couldn't go on my phone and like download a different book, and that was the only book I had with me. It wasn't horrible, it just was not for me. His writing is good, maybe he has another book that I would enjoy, but this book was just not for me. My foot's asleep. And then I listened to The Surrogate Mother by Freida McFadden, and I rated this a 3 star. In this book you follow a young woman who is having some trouble getting pregnant, and she's supposed to adopt, but then something happens, so instead they decide to get a surrogate, but her surrogate has very close ties with her. And I will say I did really like this book in the very beginning. I was eating it up. Like I didn't want to stop listening to the audiobook at all. I was very much enjoying it. And I also, if you're looking for an audiobook, I recommend this one. I liked the audiobook for this. I just didn't like how predictable it was, and as soon as I finished it I was like, was that book predictable, or am I just reading too many thrillers and I'm starting to be able to predict them? I don't know. I still don't know, but I did find it a little bit predictable. I guessed some of the twistier parts at the end, and I was like, dang it. It's so like, ugh, when you guess a part of a book, because it's like, ha, I was right, but also I didn't want to be right because that kind of sucks that I guessed the twist. Like especially in a thriller, I don't want to guess it because like I want to be shocked at the end. I was not very shocked at the end of this book because I did guess parts of it, which really sucked. But maybe if you're like more newer to thrillers, I would recommend this one because like I said, I did very much enjoy it at the beginning. And then I finished off the month by reading Daisy Haynes' the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe. Basically, from what I understand about this universe is that you have like the Magnolia Parks books and then you have the Daisy Haites books. And I don't know if you have to read them like in this order because I kind of like switch back and forth. So like in the first book you follow Magnolia, second one you follow Daisy, and third one you follow Magnolia. I don't know if you have to read them like that or if you can just read all of the Magnolia books and then read all of the Daisy books, because I feel like I would like that a little bit better, because when I started this book I didn't know that it takes place at the same time as the first Magnolia Parks book, but it's in Daisy's point of view and like you get a couple other point of views as well. I didn't love that because it kind of felt like it was a little bit repetitive, because I felt like I was almost reading the same book twice but just in a different point of view, and like you learn more about obviously what happens with Daisy in this book obviously and like her love interest. I did rate this a 3-star and that was just mostly because it felt very repetitive, because I already knew like parts of what was going to happen because of the Magnolia book. I don't know, I just kind of hope that the rest of the series does not do that because I didn't really like that. But maybe I'm just a Magnolia girly because I loved that Magnolia and BJ remind me so much of Gossip Girl, and that was like the whole reason that I started getting into this series, was because I liked that it reminded me of Gossip Girl, which 3-star isn't bad. I was just a little bit disappointed, but I'm definitely going to keep going into the series. I want to read them all, especially because I'm very excited about reading the Magnolia Parks ones. That's the perfect segue honestly into my quick little December TBR, which I actually am not for sure on what I'm going to read in December. I mean, I never really am, but I'll show you some of the books that are on my radar for December, which I kind of have a lot. So maybe we'll just do like a little rapid fire December TBR. Like I said earlier, I want to read the Winter series by Elin Hilderbrand. I actually have one book left because I finished the third book earlier this week, so I've already finished that one. But then kind of going along with that, I have a couple Christmassy books that I want to read, which I'm not going to show you specifically which ones they are because one of the next videos in December will be me reading these books. So if you want to see me read some Christmassy type books, you should stay tuned. I just realized I forgot to say my bookmas plans. So if you're still watching, you get to know my bookmas plans. Hi, welcome to bookmas. This is my first like sit down video where I'm talking about bookmas. If you have noticed, I am posting every single day in December, whether that be a video like this one or a YouTube short. I'm doing both. So I am posting every day, but it is either a short or a video like this. I wanted to post 12 videos like these in December, but I traveled so much in November that I just wasn't able to pre-film as much as I had wanted to. I actually didn't pre-film at all. So I don't know why I said that. I couldn't pre-film at all in November because I was traveling so much. I literally went on 3 separate trips in November. So I was barely home. Just sucked because that means I can't do bookmas, but hopefully next year I can do it. But yes, that is my plan for this year. Mostly YouTube shorts / Instagram reels. If you want to follow me, it's always linked in the description, but that's my plan. I forgot to mention that earlier. Anyways, a couple more books I also want to read. I went to the public library, so I have a couple public library books that I really want to get to. First, we'll start with The Wedding Crasher. This sounds similar to another book that I've heard about but haven't read. So you literally just follow a wedding crasher, and there's definitely some type of romance going on between these 2 wedding crashers. Also, just the cover was really cute, so I was like, I might as well give it a shot. I'm not buying it. It's just a public library book. Which, funny that I say that, it actually kind of felt like I had gone book shopping after I came back from the library. I don't know why. I also picked up The Fragile Threads of Power by V.E. Schwab. This is the first book in a series. I don't know what the series is called, but I kind of want to go into this book blind, but I've definitely heard some good things about this book, which is why I just picked it up. I didn't even read the synopsis or anything. And then I also picked up The Villa, which again reminded me of a different book. I don't know if it, you know what, it actually might be this book. It reminded me of something, and it could have been just someone talking about this book on YouTube, but it sounded very good. It sounds like they are going on vacation and then they kind of like discover that this house has a backstory, a history, and then things kind of start going wrong on their vacation. This sounds very good. I think that this is very high up on my list of books that I want to read in December. Again, I also want to read the Magnolia Parks books, and I have a couple rereads on my radar. I guess I might as well also share with you my current read. I'm currently reading Academy of Villains, which I'm only 11% into this book right now. I'm actually really enjoying it. Fingers crossed that it stays that way. But also right now I'm obsessed with reading on my phone. Like picking up a physical book right now, absolutely not. I don't know what this phase is that I'm in right now, but I cannot pick up a physical book. Like that's not happening. Anyways, I'm also listening to All the Light We Cannot See right now, which I don't know if I'm loving it, to be honest. I'm gonna give it a fair shot. And then I want to read The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I'm trying to decide if I want to read it on my phone or if I want to audiobook it. Haven't decided, but that is basically some of the books on my radar for December. I'm in this mood where just all I want to do is read, so hopefully I can find some really fun, really good books in December. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you stay tuned for Bookmas. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!